Thanks for coming and joining us today for our information session about Ruler. So today what we're going to do is we're going to focus on what Ruler is, how it works, and how it can enhance student and educator well-being at your school or your district. So today's session will be approximately 30 minutes. We are recording and we will send you that recording by the end of the week. Please note that you are muted and your video is off. So if you are not camera ready, do not worry. We will have time for Q&A at the end of today's session. So please use that Q&A function. Should be at the bottom. It's the two chat bubbles to ask any questions as they arise for you during our session today. We are also going to be asking some participation questions of you, so please be sure to use the chat for that. Make sure that you're responding to everybody, the hosts, panelists, everyone, so everyone can see what you have to say. Looking pretty good so far. And today is really meant to serve as a brief overview of what Ruler is. We are going to throw a lot of information at you today. So please know that we're here to support you and your team. If you have any questions, we're available to discuss them and revisit anything that we touch upon here today. So the question is, who is we? And welcome, Omaha, Nebraska. Nice to have you. So we is the three. I'm Erin Bruff. I lead up the team that works on all forms of Ruler communications. This includes websites, social media, newsletters, and other communications that come out from our center. And today I'm supporting this webinar as the moderator. So please feel free to chat me directly if you have anything that you need. With that, I'm going to shut my camera down because the people who are really going to make today shine are Amanda and Tangela. So let me hand it over to you, Amanda.
Thanks, Erin. Hi, everyone. My name's Amanda Roberts. I work with our prospective and current schools and districts and support our center's trainings and events. And I'll pass it over to Tangela.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tangela Irby, and I work on the team that does everything content. We work on curriculum, we create the newsletters, and we create additional educational resources for not only just the adults and the staff in your building, but for students and also for parents. And so I'm just going to jump right in. So when you think of the staff and the students in your school, what is one thing that you want them to leave with when they graduate or when they retire, wherever that next step might be? What's one thing? So what do you hope for them? And you can just tell me in the chat. I'm going to read aloud some of the responses. What are some of your hopes? You hope that they have emotion regulation skills. Excellent. Awareness and connection to others. Absolutely. The ability to recognize that all emotions matter and that they have healthy coping strategies. Thank you so much for sharing in the chat. Next slide. And we want them to be able to trust each other, have freedom to be themselves. Absolutely. As educators, we strive to do just that, create ways in which our hopes and dreams can be realized for our students every single day. But unfortunately, you all know that that just is not the reality. This summer, we surveyed school and district leaders and asked them about their concerns, and this is what they had to say. When we talked to, they were concerned about students in terms of their social media addiction, loneliness and isolation, as well as their emotional and behavioral challenges. In terms of educators, they were concerned about poor regulation skills, burnout, and how do we manage behaviors? And most importantly, leaders in schools were very concerned with the mental health and well-being of both students and educators. So Ruler is a systemic approach to social and emotional learning that can offer some help. Implementing Ruler in your school supports the development of a climate where many of the hopes and dreams that you mentioned can actually become reality. You might ask, how do we know this? Well, we know this to be true because research supports it. Research shows us that students are less anxious and depressed. They have developed emotion skills, that was something that you mentioned, and they experience fewer attention problems with ruler. For educators, research shows that educators are able to provide more, they're more engaging, more supportive, and more effective in the classroom. As an educator, being effective is one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing for our kids and our students all the time. Educators experience less burnout and they have greater job satisfaction. And in terms of our schools, research shows that schools have more positive climates. They experience less bullying, they see better academic performance, and have greater leadership skills. Again, all things that we want to see in our schools. Next slide, please. So I want you to take a moment and listen in as a ruler practitioner shares her thoughts about the impact of creating an environment where emotions matter for the school community.
I have always felt that you cannot get to the academic component of children unless you worry about the emotional well-being of children. And this is a way of being that helps everyone stop and look at how do we change what we do in ourselves so that we can improve the outcomes for young people. And I really firmly believe that this mindset does it for kids and the adults. This is an embodiment of a whole philosophy of being, and I think it's one in this world today that we need.
So, what is ruler? It is a way of being, a cultural shift, it's an approach. But if I had to put it in a sentence, what is it? Ruler is pre K 12 professional development for educators and classroom instruction for students that aims to enhance resilience and well being so that all members of the school community can achieve their goals. So let's dig a little deeper. Ruler is founded on 3 principles. The first one is that all emotions matter. How many times as educators have you been told to leave your emotions at the door? Is that even possible? Emotions influence everything: our attention, memory, learning, decision making, creativity, relationships, and even our mental and physical well being. Emotions are all around us, they cannot be ignored, and they have impact. Principle 2, emotions are social. Our environments, our interactions, and our relationships all influence our emotions, and vice versa. And then finally, 3, emotion skills can be developed. We aren't born emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence is learned, and we can improve only if we practice the skills. Speaking of skills, there are 5 of them. It's Ruler is not only the name of the approach, but is also the acronym for the skills of emotional intelligence. These skills are R, recognizing, U, understanding, L, labeling, E, expressing, R, regulating our emotions. And these skills help students and educators use their feelings to help them not only succeed in school, but in work and in life. And that goes back to our hopes for our students. So what about the tools? The skills are practiced and reinforced through 4 ruler tools. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the charter. And the charter is a shared agreement for how people in your school, in your community want to feel and how they will help each other feel that way. The mood meter is one of our most recognizable tools. It's all over the news, all over the internet, and I'm sure you've seen it. But it helps to support self and social awareness and the development of a nuanced feeling word vocabulary. We need to be able to identify the exact feeling word that explains how we are feeling, and the mood meter helps us do that. The third tool is the meta moment. The meta moment is a process that helps you visualize your best self. Who are you at your best? And it helps you respond to intense emotions when they arise in the ways that you would be proud of. How would your best self respond in this situation? and it allows you time to figure out what that is and to act on it. And then finally, the fourth is the blueprint. The blueprint provides a framework for building empathy. And I'm going back to that was one of the words I saw in the chat that you want in terms of hope for your students. You want them to be empathetic. It helps to build empathy, and it also helps us to improve our conflict resolution. Amanda will now walk us through an overview of how Ruler works.
Thank you, Tangela. So ruler implementation is designed to take several years. I'm going to share our recommended timeline with you, with the understanding that some schools are able to implement faster and others might take more time. The important thing is that ruler can be used to fit the individual needs of your schools. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So we begin by asking each school to send a small team of between 3 and 5 to a ruler training. We recommend that this team includes one administrator plus at least 2 teachers or mental health professionals. After the training, the teams that attended will return to their schools and spend about a year teaching the faculty and staff all about Ruler and helping them plan for classroom implementation. And then in phase 2, schools bring Ruler to students with curricula and families with resources and activities. Ruler implementation is meant to become stronger and more robust as time moves on. So once you've decided to move forward with Ruler, here's a little bit more on what phase 1 would look like. So first, you'd select your Ruler implementation team. Again, this is the team that would attend the training and help train the rest of your staff on the approach. It's helpful to consider selecting people from your school who together would create the highest impact version of your initial Ruler implementation team. Most schools tend to find it helpful to include the school principal or another school leader, pupil services personnel such as a school counselor, psychologist, or social worker, and a few teacher leaders across grade levels. After the Ruler implementation team is identified, it's time for them to attend the Ruler training, the Ruler Institute. Attendees of this Ruler Institute will learn about building a growth mindset around emotions, creating a common language around emotions, developing emotion skills, and sustaining positive social and emotional climates. We offer multiple trainings over the course of the year in both in-person and online formats. The in-person training takes place over 2 full days, and the online training takes place over 6 weeks. So each attendee in the online training would expect to spend about 2 to 2.5 hours per week with the training. One of those weekly hours would be a live session via Zoom with the facilitator of your cohort. These sessions are recorded in case you can't make it live. The other hour to hour and a half would be at your own pace. So going through the training activities, readings, reflections, watching videos, etc. We'll share a link with you where you can see all of our upcoming trainings as a follow-up to this session. And so when the team that attends that training returns back to the faculty and staff at their schools, they have a big job, right? So when they leave the training, most of them are feeling inspired and motivated to bring Ruler to their schools. Our job is to help keep that enthusiasm going. So in the first year, all faculty and staff at your school will have access to our Ruler online platform. We'll take a brief tour of that platform in just a little bit. This platform has everything your school team needs to train faculty, staff, and classrooms, grades pre-K through 12. The team that attended training will also receive virtual coaching sessions, support webinars, and newsletters to help guide their progress. Once the adults in the school have adopted the approach, it's time to start planning for classroom implementation. We'll show you more what classroom instruction looks like when we tour Ruler online, and we'll share some sample lessons with you also following this session. Before we move on to what phase 2 looks like, we want to ensure that we are offering the training format that you need. So the pandemic and associated changes over the last few years is shifting what schools are looking for. We want to make sure that we have what you are looking for. So in the poll that you'll see shortly, if your staff could train, what training would work the best for your team? So training online or training in person, which would you and your staff be more interested in? As I mentioned earlier, the in-person training takes place over the course of 2 full days at Yale here in New Haven, Connecticut, and the online training takes place over the course of 6 weeks. It's about 2 to 2.5 hours per week. So let's move on to phase 2. So phase 2 focuses on strengthening Ruler implementation at your school. It involves the continued onboarding of new staff, continued staff personal and professional development, classroom implementation, family engagement, and education. All of this would be part of our 2-year training and implementation package. So this would include the training, staff development, classroom instruction, family education and engagement. It includes the Ruler Institute, the training. So again, either that online or in-person training, virtual group coaching sessions, electronic newsletters and implementation support webinars, access to our Ruler online platform, and a discount to our annual national conference. As you can see here, the pricing is dependent on 2 things. So one being the training modality, so online versus in-person training, and also the size of your Ruler implementation team. There it is. After those first 2 years, your Ruler support doesn't end. You can continue to access all of the supports included in your training and implementation package with our annual subscription. The only thing that subscription would not include is that the Ruler Institute, the training, which your team would only need to participate in once. So now I'd like to pass it back over to Tangela, who's going to give us a brief tour of our Ruler online platform.
Thank you, Amanda. So let's dig in to Ruler Online. We're going to start. If you take a look at the very top, you'll notice that we have courses, resources, curricula, tools, and there's a tab for coaching. So let's dig into the course tab for a moment. You will notice that, as Amanda said, when the implementation team comes back from training, they will have a task ahead of them, a large task, because it will be your job to train your staff. But we are not leaving you without resources. One of those resources is there are actually courses that are online that your staff can go through. So there's an Introduction to Emotions and Emotional Intelligence course. And in that course, you will see that it is broken into modules and that each module has a specific time frame. And so again, you can use that the best way that it fits into your school schedule. So you have 2 courses, and we're going to move from the courses onto resources. And you can see how the resources are grouped. So here is our resource library. So first we have Ruler Implementation. There are 3 folders. There is Ruler in Action. There are 3 folders. We have our Ruler Tools that I went over a moment ago. There are more activities and details in terms of how you teach those tools to your staff. There is Ruler for Families. So there are letters in there. There are videos in there. Again, resources that you can use when you're ready to share Ruler implementation with your families. We have Ruler for out of school time. So if you have the after school program, we have resources for you as well. Your classroom content is actually housed in 2 different places. So this is one of them. And as you can see, it's by grade level bands. There is Ruler for hybrid learning. There are resources that we created, for example, that people could use during the pandemic. There's Ruler mindfulness resources. Some people say, well, how do I teach this? How do I teach that? Again, we have resources for you for anything that you are going to need. And then finally, there's trauma-informed Ruler resources. Again, to help teachers in terms of how do I deal with trauma in the classroom? Students were exhibiting that they're going through trauma. How do I deal with things that are going on in my own life? But those are all resources that are there for you. We're going to jump to curricula now. And as you can see, again, it's grouped by grade level band, early childhood, elementary, middle, and high. We're going to dig into elementary for a moment. And we're going to take a look at grade 5. You see, again, all the grade levels are there for elementary. So what I want to bring your attention to, so during year 1 implementation, we ask or we recommend that you go through the introductory materials. So there's a teaching guide, there are your core routines, your introductory lessons, and the grade 5 feeling words. So what you see here is the format for all of the elementary curriculum. What I would like to do now is to draw your attention to that you'll see that we have Spanish editions. We will continue this and you will have all of the Spanish translations there by the end of the year. We're in the process of doing that now, but let's dig into, if we were just to open Unit 1, is Emotions Matter? all of our unit ones for every grade level starts with emotions matter. So you'll see that there is alignment across every grade level. Once you're into the unit, you see there's a summary. We are aligned to standards. There are objectives. There is a learning plan, and we do assessments in terms of how well just like a classroom teacher would do with any lesson that they're teaching. You want to make sure that students are actually meeting the objectives that you have set. And so you'll see that they're learning plans. They're not detailed lessons. You will see that for year one. But moving forward, we want to give teachers the flexibility to integrate things into whatever it is that they're doing in their classroom, whether it's your literacy program, et cetera. This allows you the flexibility to do that. We're going to go back to our outline now. We're going to take a minute to look at tools. And I share the tools with you, but we also have them here. For example, there are things that you can do online with your staff. You'll see some of the resources again that are organized in a different way. And then the last thing that I want to bring your attention to is the coaching. So we offer coaching after your team finishes with ruler training. Again, we don't leave you alone. We're there to walk with you during this ruler journey. But if you look down, you'll notice, I'm just going to scroll down. You see all of our trainers and coaches there, but you'll see this is our schedule. So for the month of October, these are all of the sessions that we are offering. So it tells you what time, it tells you who the coach is, and we offer them at multiple times throughout the day, days of the week, again, trying to accommodate as many of you as possible, given the nature of school schedules. We definitely understand that. So at this point, we're going to turn it back over to Megan. I'm sorry, Erin. I'm going to turn it back over to Erin.
That is absolutely okay. So at this point, we have about 6 minutes left with you all. So we wanted to turn our attention to any questions that you may have. I want to just elevate a mention in the chat from Jason first. When we asked about the training modality that really works well for his district found that the online pacing was very meaningful rather than the 2-day crash course. So our 6-week training, as we mentioned earlier, it is over 6 weeks. So attendees are able to take what they learn in any given week and apply it, test it out as they move along through that training. Okay, so we have some other questions coming in. How is the mood meter different from the zones of regulation? Tangela, I'm going to hand that over to you.
The easiest way that I can explain that is that ruler, one of the primary premises of ruler is that all emotions matter. So there isn't a recommended place on the mood meter that you need to be. Sometimes you're going to be sad. Sometimes you're going to be happy. So it's okay to feel the way that you feel. And, I'm not an expert in zones of regulation, but that's one of the differences that I've noticed looking at the two of them. I think my camera froze, but that is one of the differences. All emotions matter. And yes, if you find that you're spending the majority of your time, for example, in the red, then that may indicate to you that you have a problem. But for the most part, all emotions matter, and we're going to experience all of them. There are no good or bad emotions. They're pleasant and they're unpleasant.
Thanks, Tangela. Athea, please reach out to us if you want to follow up any further with that question. We'd be happy to chat more. We have another question in the chat. You're so welcome. We have another question in the chat from one of our guests. I work at the district level, not a specific school, and I focus on professional development implementation at different schools. Could I attend a training alone since I am not part of one school? The goal would be to bring this back to several schools. Amanda, I'm going to throw that over to you.
Sure, that's a great question. So we do ask that each school that plans on implementing ruler send a specific implementation team through training. So you want to make sure that you have the buy-in, so to speak, at that school level. That's a big part of the reason why we do ask that an administrator, the principal, or some other leader from the school be present as part of that implementation team. You want to also have a number of different perspectives from the building. So another reason why we ask teachers or mental health professionals from the building to attend. It's not just professional development, so to speak. It's really a whole school approach, supporting that whole school community. So professional development is certainly a huge part of it. And, that's why we train the adults first. But we also bring it to students, we bring it to families, and make sure that that whole school community can really be a part of the approach. So each school that plans on implementing Ruler would need to register a separate team for Ruler training. And we're happy to speak through the logistics with you on that as well. So sometimes we do have folks from the district level attend as part of a school team, or creating a district team to support school teams that are also attending. So if you have any questions on who should attend a training, please reach out to us directly as well. And you can reach out to rulertraining@yale.edu.
Erin, can I add something? I'll just take a moment if it's okay.
Absolutely.
I just want to add, because there was a question about, social workers and other guidance in terms of doing this work. We need to remember that Ruler is a tier 1 intervention. And so it is interventions. It's what the school can do for every child. Yes, you're going to have students who are exhibiting some intense behaviors and they may need more, for example, a tier 2 intervention. But Ruler is for all students, it's for all adults, it's for everyone.
Thanks, Tangela. I'm going to kind of ask 2 very quick questions, and then we're going to have to wrap up in about a minute, but I want to encourage, if we weren't able to get to your questions, please reach out to us, because we do have quite a few. We can also stay on for an extra 5 minutes for sure after we wrap up the webinar to answer any other questions that come in. So can this training be used for OST organizations? Ricardo asked this in the chat. Ricardo, I have something for you. We have a bunch of free resources that are specifically designed for OST organizations. We can send that out in our follow-up materials for you so that you can have that, and those are ready to use immediately. We also have another question in the chat. Do your lessons have ready-made slides? Is there a data component to Ruler? We can answer the data component question that's a little more advanced in some follow-up for you. So let's just talk about, do the lessons have ready-made slides? Tangela, can you address that one?
Yes, so that is something that we do have ready-made slides in our high school curriculum, but that is something that we're going to work on for our elementary and middle school with the next revision. We've heard from, once people see the high school resources, they want to see the same thing for elementary and middle school. So it is coming.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
And I dropped we can send it out for everyone, link the OST resources. Right.
Absolutely. All right, one more question that I want to address. I know we're running slightly over. Are there grants to help with the financial cost? Absolutely. There is a page on our website. I will also send that out as part of the follow-up materials that details all of the different funding opportunities that are available for Ruler and your continued implementation support with Ruler. So happy to get that out to you. For now, for those who do have to leave, I just want to close out our info session. So before you go today, we really want to hear more and learn more about you. So there is a QR code on the screen. Please go ahead and scan that. It's a 5-question survey. It helps us to get to know you a little bit more and what your needs are as districts and schools. I just want to touch upon briefly some of the things that we'll be following up with in addition to what I just mentioned. So we're going to send the recording of the information session. we will send training information. This will include how you apply, syllabus, and the differences in the format. We'll send a sample implementation guide. This is the guide that you would use after your team returns from training. And then we're also going to send out some sample lessons so that you have the opportunity to view those. So I'm actually going to close the information session formally now, but if you'd like to hang on and ask a few more questions, our team would be more than happy to stick around for about 5 more minutes. So for those who have to go, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, contact us at rulertraining@yale.edu with any of your questions. We're happy to answer them. And we will work on getting to some more of your questions as they arise. Just feel free to put them in the Q&A and chat, and we can hang on for a little bit longer. Thanks, everybody.